on BBC One and iPlayer.
The late news now on Christmas Eve here on BBC One with Reeta Chakrabarti.
Tonight, extreme weather hits 250 million Americans and Canadians, with temperatures plummeting to as low as minus 45 degrees Celsius. A massive winter storm has led to at least 19 deaths and nearly 1 million people are without power.
The conditions, the blinding snow, the zero visibility, absolute whiteouts, it may go down as one of the worst in history.
At least 10 people are killed by Russian airstrikes in the Ukrainian city of Kherson, with homes and offices damaged in the blasts. Dashing for the last train home for Christmas as more rail strikes stop services across the country. And the remarkable achievement of the Army veteran who's halved the world record for a 1-kilometre swim by a triple amputee. Good evening. An icy blast has hit nearly 250 million people in the US and Canada as one of the most severe winter storms in living memory takes hold, with snow blizzards, strong winds and freezing temperatures. A record low temperature of minus 45 degrees Celsius has been recorded in a town in the state of Montana. Around 800,000 American households and businesses have no electricity and thousands of flights have been cancelled. Our correspondent Nomia Iqbal has more and a warning that her report contains flashing images.
The bomb cyclone has plunged more than half of this country into sub-zero temperatures. From coast to coast, it has brought blistering storms, blinding snow, power outages and can turn boiling hot water into a snow cloud in seconds. The western state of Montana is bearing the brunt. Temperatures here are the lowest at minus 50 degrees. Residents have been warned to stay indoors, but some are trying to tackle the snow.
You need to clear your sidewalks within 24 hours after the storm, so I'm out here doing it with a shovel because my snowblowers wouldn't start.
Every type of travel has been thrown into chaos. On the roads in the Midwest, there have been fatalities. The East Coast city of Buffalo in New York isn't taking a chance, though. Driving has been banned.
The conditions, the blinding snow, the zero visibility, absolute whiteouts, it may go down as one of the worst in history.
On the railways, many routes have been cancelled.
It is a gamble. You never know what's going to happen. You always need to get there early, be prepared, be flexible, because there's always change.
As have thousands of flights, with hundreds more delayed over the weekend.
The whole airport shut down, so we drove to Omaha, Nebraska, got on a flight there, then DC, delayed in DC.
The storm is expected to last some time yet. It has left Americans facing another ruined Christmas after the pandemic disrupted the last one. Nomia Iqbal, BBC News, Washington.
Well, here in DC on the East Coast, the temperature has been dropping all day. It's about minus 7 degrees now, and it's going to continue falling here along the East Coast and across most parts of America. It is freezing, but of course here it's nothing compared to what it's like elsewhere. And there's no let up as we head towards Christmas Day itself. The bomb cyclone will continue its path well into next week and then easing off eventually. Now, America is used to cold snaps, especially during this time of the year. But forecasters say this feels different, and they are warning that more than 100 daily cold temperature records could be broken in the coming days.
Nomia, thank you. Nomia Iqbal reporting there. At least 10 people have been killed after Russia carried out widespread shelling of the Ukrainian city of Kherson this morning. More than 50 others were wounded. President Zelensky has described the attack, exactly 10 months since the start of the Russian invasion, as killing for the sake of intimidation and pleasure. Our correspondent Yogita Limai reports now from southern Ukraine.
More than a month after it was liberated from Russia, Kherson continues to live in terror. An artillery attack on the busy city centre, targeting civilians out to buy essential items. I was walking and the ground started to shake beneath me. I fell down. I then saw smoke coming up, one woman said. Kherson is hit multiple times every day, but this has been the biggest attack in weeks.
From here we took, I think, 4 or 5 critical injured patients. And then from the hotel we took 2 injured. And then from the other down 3 blocks away, where most people were dead.
The suffering is endless. And so are the attacks. The sound of more mortar shelling as emergency workers try to save people. For the people of Kherson who had begun to get used to the constant shelling, this attack strikes new fear. And the worry here and on other front lines of this war is that the bombardment could get even more intense over Christmas and in the run-up to the new year. Yogita Lamai, BBC News, Mykolaiv.
There was an early end to Christmas Eve rail services across the UK after workers from the RMT union walked out at 6 o'clock this evening. Their strike will continue until the early hours of Tuesday. Noor Nanji reports.
Dashing home for Christmas, this train to Swansea was one of the last to leave London today. All around Britain, rail services have finished early because of more strikes. For passengers here, it was a race against time.
It's the last train, so it is kind of a bit nerve-wracking, but yeah. But either way, I do support the people who are striking.
So I do understand what they're going through. It's just frustrating that it has to have an impact on sort of Christmas and going home to see family and stuff.
This station would usually be packed on a Saturday evening, but here on the platform, you could hear a pin drop. Services started winding down from around lunchtime. The last train left at about 4 in the afternoon, and they won't be back up and running until Tuesday morning. Around the country, it was a similar picture, with many people forced to change their plans.
Yesterday we went to the station in York, and I don't think they were on strike yesterday, but all the trains were cancelled. And then we ended up paying £65 in a taxi to get here.
We booked off 3 p.m. train, and it was cancelled, so yeah, we booked for 9:45.
And this is the last train?
Yeah, this is the last train. Yeah, we're still worried that it won't get cancelled.
The walkouts are part of a long-running dispute between rail bosses and unions about pay, conditions and job security. The RMT union has accused the government of blocking rail employers from making a deal. The Department for Transport rejected that, saying it has facilitated talks. Network Rail says it's offered a fair deal and urged the union to think again. Christmas Eve is also a big day for restaurants, cafes and bars, as well as for last-minute shopping.
The problem with losing shoppers on such a key trading day like Christmas Eve is that you can't really recover that spend. However much you want to and how long you stay open, shoppers want to buy on Christmas Eve, and if they can't buy, they'll buy elsewhere.
With many people avoiding the railways, some people have opted to drive home for Christmas instead.
We are seeing a lot of congestion over this period, and that is because people don't want to use the rail. They're just not sure what sort of service they're going to get. We're expecting today to be particularly busy. Yesterday we did over 13,500 jobs, which is more than our usual daily average.
With roads busier than usual, the advice to motorists is to check before they travel. Noor Nanji, BBC News in Paddington.
Let's take a look now at some of today's other news. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have dismissed as a PR stunt an apology by the Sun newspaper for a column by Jeremy Clarkson. There was a public outcry over the article in which the broadcaster described his hatred of Meghan. Mr. Clarkson has since asked for the piece to be withdrawn. Police say that the death of a 4-year-old boy at the Center Parcs resort at Longleat is not being treated as suspicious. The BBC has been told the boy died after an incident that happened in a swimming pool. In Afghanistan, the Taliban have banned women from working for local and international non-government organisations, including charities, until further notice. The Taliban said the ban was because some women had not followed its strict interpretation of the Islamic female dress code. It comes days after the Taliban ordered women out of universities. Police have fired tear gas on protesters in central Paris following the shooting dead of 3 Kurdish people on Friday. Demonstrators overturned cars, setting some vehicles on fire. The attack yesterday took place at a Kurdish cultural centre. The gunman, who's 69, later described himself as a racist who hated foreigners. Maxi Jazz, the lead singer of the electronic band Faithless, has died at the age of 65. The musician, whose real name was Maxwell Fraser, saw the group's dance tracks hit the mainstream in the 90s, selling millions worldwide with hits including Insomnia and We Come One.
Let me hear some noise, eh?
Now, a former Royal Marine, Mark Ormrod, appears to have smashed the world record for the fastest open water 1 kilometre swim by a triple amputee. His time of around 35 minutes, which is yet to be confirmed by Guinness World Records, is half that of the previous attempt. Our correspondent John Maguire has more.
Cold, exhausted but elated, subject to authentication, Mark smashed the world record for the fastest 1 kilometre swim in open water by a triple amputee.
Well, that's the warm-up done.
35 minutes. The world record stands at an hour.
Yeah.
You aim for 45.
Yeah.
Not only have you smashed it, you've done whatever north of smashed it is. Super smashed it.
Happy days. Merry Christmas.
The landmine that exploded on Christmas Eve in 2007 while his Royal Marine unit was on foot patrol in Afghanistan almost took Mark Ormrod's life. He lost both legs and his right arm, devastating injuries. But with single-minded determination, he set and achieved goals many would think impossible ever since. Last year, he took on 3 major challenges. Firstly, a 5-kilometre run. This fall in training, another example that Mark doesn't stay down for long.
Let's just walk it in.
Then, a sea swim off Plymouth, propelled by just one arm. And finally, a 100-mile overnight hand cycle ride. 3 very different but equally very tough endeavours.
We're going to need to go?
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right,
yeah. Let's go. Ready?
This morning, he returned to the water with the record in his sights, determined to commemorate the anniversary his way.
Good visitors to really help the yellow hat out. So yeah, I'm happy.
He's continuing to raise money for Reorg, a charity that helps veterans, service personnel and emergency services staff through the martial art Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Throughout his challenges, Mark's been trained by another former Royal Marine, Ben Wadham.
I'm impressed. That was, we all say that was a fast K. Challenging current coming back up, actually, so it wasn't as easy as it looked. It might look flat out there, but the current underneath was actually quite strong. And like you say, 35 minutes, yeah, I'm very, very impressed.
Oh, it's made an incredible difference. We've literally been able to help hundreds of people. It changed, in some cases saved hundreds of lives, introducing them to jiu-jitsu, fitness, through Mark and Ben's efforts and the money that people have donated, to the charity. So it's been phenomenal.
And on this 15th anniversary of the day that changed his life, Mark Ormrod has proved once again not what can't be done, but with determination, drive and downright stubbornness can be done. John Maguire, BBC News, Plymouth.
King Charles will deliver his first Christmas speech as monarch tomorrow in an address which is expected to pay tribute to his mother, Queen Elizabeth. In her final Christmas message, the late Queen spoke of passing the baton to the next generation, and her son will remember her legacy. He's also likely to touch on the importance of Christianity and interfaith relations, as our religion editor Aline Makboul reports.
Another moment of history, as in St George's Chapel at Windsor Castle, King Charles records his first ever Christmas message, a chance to reflect on the year, but also talk about faith. Given its importance to him, we're likely to hear about interfaith relations. One of the first gatherings the new king convened even before the Queen's funeral was of 30 faith leaders. He told them he viewed Britain as what he called a community of communities. At the start of the year, he commissioned portraits of Holocaust survivors, including Rachel Levy, whose mother and 3 siblings, aged 10, 8 and 3, were all killed on arrival at Auschwitz. She talks of her surprise at being honoured by the man who's now king.
I appreciate it. And I appreciate that the Prince of Wales at the time should do this for all of us as survivors. And he goes on doing things and being so very, very hospitable in every way towards the survivors. That is a great thing, absolutely, and that gives us courage.
But of course the king has long shown an intense interest in people of many faiths. He's often thrown himself into celebrating other cultures. But the king's regard for people of other religions doesn't always go down well. When he suggested in the 90s he looked at the constitutional role as defender of faith, not defender of the faith, some suggested he was sidelining the country's Christian heritage, even wondering about his own beliefs. Others say that's just a misunderstanding.
All I can say is that he's been very explicit about his own faith, and from what I see of him, he does take faith and worship extremely seriously and is profoundly thoughtful about it. And I don't personally see any contradiction between the two. As I've said, the more you dig deep into your own faith, the more you're able to be open to others.
And that has always been the king's point, that he feels it's part of his Christian duty to protect the practice of all faiths and none. Aline McBool, BBC News.
Tens of thousands of people from around the world have gathered in Bethlehem in the Israeli-occupied West Bank for Christmas Eve celebrations. Christian leaders led midnight mass in the Church of the Nativity, where the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas was among the congregation. It's the first time in 2 years that foreign visitors have been able to attend because of COVID restrictions. Well, you can see more on all of today's stories on the BBC News channel. That's it from us on The Late News, and we wish you all a very happy Christmas. Good night.